Peak One Sports.
Hey guys, welcome to the Leadoff, heard every Saturday morning here on the Peak One Sports Network. I'm Ashton.
And I'm Tony. Get that morning drink ready. Let's get your weekend started. What do we want to jump into first?
Let's talk about the 100 subscriber challenge. Again, make sure
good.
you like and subscribe to our page, videos. Our 100 subscriber challenge is going strong right now. I think Cole Rambo of the Bungalow Sports Show brought it out, challenged everybody, and they're going to do a bet payoff. I'm not exactly sure what they've decided on
Sounds like
yet.
they're probably going to do some type of sports triathlon between him and Joey.
Yeah.
I don't know. They talked about a best of three thing. It's like
Wiffle ball, home run derby, hockey shootout.
And they have access to ice, so that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, and
a field goal.
I think
challenge.
they should still do it with dog shot collars, but that's just me. But we're
Guys, the
here.
suits are telling you do the dog collars.
It'd be great for ratings. I'm just saying.
We're doing something a little different. We're working on a swag bag of stuff from the network and all of our shows and sponsors. We've got stuff, hats, shirt options, stickers. We got all kinds of stuff, right, that we're going to put into a bag.
We're still adding stuff. There's going to be multiple hats, shirt, stickers, all kinds of fun stuff. How you win it. I know there's been some talk about it. We're just going to jump out and go ahead and set the rules and parameters. There's really only two rules. Make sure you subscribe to the page. That's kind of the whole point. You have to be subscribed to win. And just comment on some videos. You can go ahead and start now. We're not going to pick a comment. Once we hit 100, we're not going to say, okay, now comment. We're not
we'll
going
go back to all the shows.
Yeah.
From here.
The comment can be about anything. It doesn't have to be about the challenge itself. Once we hit 100 subscribers, we are going to pick a random comment on a random video. It may be a video that's already aired. It may be a future video. But we're going to pick...
The more you comment, the better your chances are.
Early and often. I'm not going to say we're going to be biased, but if we see a lot of comments from the same people, we might pick one of them. Moving in, we're definitely going to talk NBA Finals today, NHL Final, NFL. We'll jump into MLB. Of course, we will talk about the thread and continue our countdown of the uniform rankings in Major League Baseball. But first, let's talk about something that seems like it's on the precipice of being breaking news, but they're holding off because of course, the NBA Finals going on. But that's John Morant and his imminent suspension, it sounds like. Adam Silver commenting on the latest social media incident with John Morant, which, again, he had a firearm, again, in a video. And it seemed like, we talk about who you hang out with. It sounds like who he's hanging out with is not the best, but if you watch that video, the most recent video, I know we talk about there's more going on to the story. His friend had him on Instagram Live or whatever, and he pulled out the firearm and he turned it away real quick. Like his friend knew what was going. Like, hey, dude, don't be.
So maybe Jaw's the problem, not the people he's hanging out with. Maybe he is the guy. The other guys are hanging out with.
I think when you have a group of people who aren't helping you in that arena, saying, hey, let's stop doing crap like this. That they're some people you shouldn't be hanging out with already, but they are being smarter than you.
Yeah.
You probably have an issue. But that was the most recent stuff. Adam Silver commented saying he's going to hold off till after the NBA Finals, obviously.
And he also says that
and there's more to it.
We've uncovered a fair amount of additional information since it was last asked about the situation. We probably could have brought it to head now, but we made a decision and believe that the Players Association agrees with us that this would be unfair to these players and these teams in reference to the finals in the middle of this series to announce the results of this investigation. He also went on to say that he was asked if was it 8-game suspension that Ja had, if that was good enough, and this is not exact quote, I don't have his exact quote here, but that he said that
in hindsight
it probably wasn't enough.
Yeah, and I think he mentioned 12 games.
He said maybe, is it 8? Was it 12? We don't know. I would imagine with the recent stuff, this is becoming a problem with Ja, that you're probably gonna see a pretty hefty suspension and fines and everything getting thrown at him here. I think they're gonna try to solidify this now, and hopefully that Ja can come back from this, but they're not gonna just continue to let him draw this out. It's like, you're either gonna straighten up and be he was becoming a face for the NBA.
Yeah.
Growing with his new Nike brand, his signature shoe with Nike.
He was becoming
actually recently just released.
Fan favorite.
Absolutely.
Being on a team who hasn't won a championship, who isn't one of the teams you love to hate. So I think a lot of people, that underdog mindset where Memphis is doing really good and then they lose early in the playoffs for a couple of years, but he was becoming a fan favorite in that sense. So he doesn't play for the Lakers. He doesn't play for the New York Knicks. He plays for a small market team. Adam Silver also said that he has talked to the Players Association. They came to an agreement, which to me,
I think that's big.
To me, it sounds like maybe like a 20-game suspension, something like that. I think once you get further than that, the Players Association is, more wants to hold off on that, and not, maybe possibly.
Don't forget the Grizzlies have him suspended indefinitely with the club, so he's not going to be part of any offseason activities for the Grizzlies. So keep that in mind as well. That that's still looming over him.
Yeah, and I mean,
and really, them not making a decision now doesn't change anything with him out of the playoffs. He's not playing games now, and he's not going to be with the club. So really, nothing. It doesn't matter when you announce when the suspension, what the suspension will be.
Yeah, I don't see him being suspended all season. The NBA still wants him to play. He's very young, still very talented, and can turn out to be a good
the
good thing for the NBA.
Sad part of this was that he even went to counseling or rehab over this, and apparently, he comes back and says, "Oh yeah, I'm better and I'm changing." And
it all depends what the other stuff they found in the investigation. I can't imagine what it would be.
It sounds like it has to be much more, or why would they make those kind of comments?
Yeah,
I don't think you make those types of comments. Everybody knows. You've seen the Instagram video. Like, I don't know that. I don't know if it could be minimal, or why would they bring that up? Why would that even be a comment that they would say? If it wasn't something
outside
major.
of something like harming somebody else, what he has done hasn't been. It's been stupid, but you've seen much worse from other players. I think it's just the repetitiveness of doing stupid things on social media.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the NBA, wants him to clear up and bring him back. It's nothing serious that, like I said, we don't know what the other stuff is they uncovered. I assume it's not any harm to anybody, because something like that would leak or come out, or if the police were involved or something like that. Again, I don't know. It just all depends what that is. And they're not even saying what it is. Like, you think they're holding back the news of the suspension, but they can mention what they found and then hold the suspension news for after. So it sounds like what they found is possibly breaking news as well.
And that's part of, do we see, I think we can all agree that this is one of the lowest profile finals we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
You don't have these high profile names. You don't have these, I don't want to say not stars. These are stars.
You were very close to having a Celtics Lakers finals, and then you go to Denver and Miami.
A final like this, especially as flat as the Miami Heat came out in this game, first game that we'll get into here in a second, this could overshadow the finals and would completely just take the wind out of any of these teams' sails, and this game would seem secondary with what it sounds like could be breaking news.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why And again, I don't think that Adam Silver says anything if he wasn't asked about, you know, he's put in a position where he has to comment about it because you don't want that to leak out either. So
Yeah, and
you say, well, why would you even say anything?
Yeah, just say we're not going to make a comment on it until after the finals. So he has to,
but he doesn't want that information to leak, especially when they've talked with the Players Association and the information's in too many hands that could leak out what it is, hey, we need to at least prepare people that, hey, this is big. Give it another week or two.
Yeah, he has to handle it the right way. And the NBA never wants to be put in this position. It's not good publicity in this hand. I mean, especially for Adam Silver. I mean, just look at how the NFL handled some of their stuff.
Yeah.
And why Roger Goodell is booed relentlessly. It's become a tradition now, but he's always booed when he comes up to make the pick in the NFL draft, for example.
Yeah.
Mostly because you're never going to get it right. You don't want to have to suspend players, or you don't want players to be put themselves in positions where they have to be suspended, because there's no one right answer. Some people are going to say it's too much. Some people are going to say it's not enough. Ever since the Ray Rice incident,
yeah,
where he gets 2 games and then the video comes out, it doesn't matter if if he'd got the death penalty after that. The NFL was having to react to the fans' reaction, which you never want to be put in that position.
Yeah.
Speaking of these not low rated, but low profile NBA finals, we had game 1 the other night, Denver beating Miami 104-93. The score sounds a lot closer than it probably was. I mean, didn't seem like an 11-point game. Today's NBA, 11 points, that's a 3-minute run nowadays. Yeah. I think Denver was up as much as maybe 21 points. They led at 17 at halftime.
It was a very underwhelming game 1 for a finals. I was very hopeful that the Heat would be more aggressive coming off the series they just had. They wouldn't want to go down and have to fight and claw their way back.
Take advantage of Denver sitting for so long.
Yeah, they came out very flat, I don't know, man. They didn't have the energy, and maybe they were a little deflated from that Celtics series. I mean, I think that probably took a lot out of them, being up 3-0.
Yeah, it's good that you move on. You move on to the NBA Finals, but you were up 3-0, nearly giving it all up. You don't feel great about going out of that series, how you finished.
I mean, in that game, Jokic led. I mean, he had another triple-double. Seems like this guy needs to change his name to triple-double.
9th triple-double of the season. He's averaging a triple-double in the playoffs. Murray had 26 and 10 in this game as well.
I think if there's a possibility for a sweep, this is it. I think the Nuggets, if the Heat don't come out strong this next game, whether they win or lose, if they don't come out and perform better, I think we could have a sweep on our hands.
I mean, Denver was the number 1 seed in the West. They've been a top 2 seed for the last few years. Just disappointed. Miami technically an 8th seed, although they really had the 7th best record, but the play-in tournament got them to the 8th seed.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not an even matchup. The Denver is definitely favored in this. I picked them to win in 5 games. I think Miami would get 1 back in Miami. Butler, though, Jimmy Butler, 13 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists.
I think in this series, you need more out of Jimmy Butler.
When you have a team, I mean, this is very low profile finals. I like that there's not super teams involved. I mean, it's different. The Nuggets there for the first time in forever. The Miami Heat there for the first time since 2020, I believe. But we're not talking about the bubble. This is real year NBA Finals. You have Miami team without Dwayne Wade. The first time really outside of 2020 that they made the finals without Dwayne Wade. No LeBron James, nothing like that. You have 2 solid teams. Not the best teams, not the most high-profile teams like you'd mentioned, but I think it's a situation where you don't have players that are going to take over the series necessarily, unless they just play great. But
here's a huge stat that really, you can look at all the numbers, the 40% from the field for Miami and 50% from the field for Denver. That's a little swing, But here's the biggest one I see, and maybe this tells the whole story. Free throws. The Nuggets had 20 attempted free throws where they were 80%. The Heat only had 2 free throw attempts in the entire game.
To me, that
Are the
without
Nuggets,
looking at the
Nuggets playing better, cleaner defense?
no, less aggressive. That's what I think 100%. When you tell me, if I don't watch the game, if I'm not thinking of anything, you say they have this many free throw attempts and it's very low, is they're not being aggressive enough on offense. Now, whether bad calls, bad no calls, whatever you want to say, I think it all ends up evening out. If you're talking about team free throws now, you're talking about Kobe and D Wade and stars themselves getting more free throws, but as a team, I don't care what what bad calls, anything, biases. You have to get to the free throw more, just in general.
The Heat,
when you're playing offense,
the Heat
aggressively.
had 39 3-point attempts versus Denver's 27 attempts.
And that's that could be
they had a dozen more attempts and still only shot 30%. So
I mean that's the story of it. You're shooting threes instead of driving the basket, which when you're playing down,
I think
by a whole lot that makes sense.
I would
you got to try to get back in the game.
Don't discredit what Denver's doing. Denver maybe is playing a less aggressive defense. They're going to let the Miami Heat beat themselves.
Yeah.
They're going to allow them to shoot themselves in the foot. They're going to say, take your threes, take this shot, take that. We're going to attack. I mean, you've seen Jokic's game. You've seen Murray's game. These guys attack around the basket. Gordon, I mean, all of these guys, they go and they attack the basket hard. They're going to draw a foul. I think that's the telling story in this game. It's not the shooting percentages. It's not, even the attempts. It's you've got to get to the free throw line and you've got to score in the paint.
If you want to look good news for the Miami Heat, every championship they've won, they've lost game one. I don't know about the series against the Lakers in the bubble. I don't remember off the top of my head when they beat the Spurs or lost to the Spurs, but I know when they lost to the Mavericks, they had won game one. So, take that for what's worth. I mean, obviously they don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. It's not statistics you can put together because completely different teams, completely different players. But just because you lose game one doesn't mean the end of the world. And everyone was expecting them to lose game one. Denver has won game one of every series.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to say it's the altitude, if you go from Miami, which is 0 altitude, it's at sea level.
Yeah,
I mean, it's right there on the coast. And you play a 7-game series. Far into the spectrum, Denver sweeps the Lakers. They played the minimal amount of games, and you come to Denver. I think now that maybe they're used to the altitude, maybe they'll put up a little bit better game.
I actually had this. I think I have it here. Yeah, my son sent this to me. The altitude difference is 5,208 feet in Denver, and Miami is 6 feet above sea level.
6 feet above sea level.
So you have 5,202 feet difference between those two.
And thinking, when did Miami get there? Probably the night before the game, maybe the day before the game. But they only had 2 or 3 days after beating the Celtics to go there. And where have they been playing all their games? Miami, Boston, right there on the coast as well.
Yeah.
Boston played Philadelphia. Who else did Miami play? They've been Milwaukee. They're not playing in high altitudes at all this whole season. So last time they played Denver,
and it showed. They came out flat like that said.
So expect them to do better in game 2. That's all I do. Game 2 is tomorrow night. We'll see how they react. We'll move on to the NHL Final. Just cover that real quick because they haven't had any games played. Game 1 tonight in Vegas. The Panthers and Golden Knights. Golden Knights obviously coming off not exactly what the Miami Heat did, but they had a 3-0 series lead. Stars come back a little bit. I think the Golden Knights feel better about it than Miami does because they just kicked the crap out of the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
Winning 6-0 in Game 6. And then the Panthers just having an unbelievable run in the playoffs right now, beating arguably the best team in the regular season in history, and the Boston Bruins. Just annihilating Carolina, really, and sweeping them. Obviously, every game was pretty close. A few games went to overtime. Even Carolina GM said we didn't get swept.
Yeah.
Well, you did get swept.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, it's kind of like.
Say, well, we didn't lose.
It's kind of like I think
you got your ass kicked. Dude.
I think it was.
I don't care how tight the games were. You couldn't find a way to win one game.
I think it was Greenberg that said, "Well, if the Lakers had Kyrie Irving, they would have won this series." I'm like, well, if the Mavericks had Jokic and Giannis, they might have won the NBA Finals. They might have made the playoffs. That's not. I mean, I understand Kyrie Irving's more than likely probably going to LA anyway.
Well, and you see what his comments were. He's trying to. One, probably trying to save his job to make sure that he's not embarrassed. But I think very much so that was the politically correct way to say that.
You're right. It's he didn't have to say though because we were all already thinking it.
Yeah,
I was thinking, man, that was an interesting series that they get swept, but every game is close. But yeah, now we have Panthers Golden Knights. Who do you think is going to come out on top? I mean, you have a 7-game series, although it's called the NHL Final, but it's a 7-game series.
Man, which one?
I just think Florida has all the momentum. I know some people don't believe in momentum, especially from game to game or series to series, but it's hard to pick against Florida right now. I know Vegas on paper.
I'm gonna have to go with Vegas here, man.
Really?
I think on paper, I think they look good. I think. Man, yeah, this is a tough one. I think this could be a very good series. I think this is going to be a back and forth series, and I think I'd absolutely go with Vegas here.
Panthers are in
I think Vegas
some of the
is
same
6.
situation with the same situation with Denver, where they swept. The other series ran a little bit long, so they've been sitting for a while. We saw how that came out with Denver. Florida's playing in Vegas, so it's not a home game, but
we'll
see how they
back.
come out.
I got this going to 7. I think it's going to be that tight.
7.
It goes to 7. I think Vegas in 7. Let's go ahead and make sure we put that down. Let's have our bets there.
Oh yeah, I'll type that in. I have the Panthers in 6, and you have Vegas in 7. That's interesting too. I mean, there's stats that I like. You hear me talk about stuff, and I can see how you look at me like that's the weirdest. Why would anyone even think about that? But you have both Miami involved in the NBA Final and the NHL Final, NBA Finals, with Florida Panthers being a Miami team.
Yeah.
And you have both Miami and Florida losing.
Yeah,
It's
no bias against Florida. I just picked the better team.
All of our Florida listeners.
I got to stick with the Nuggets.
Remember, this is Tony. This is Ashton.
I picked the Nuggets to sweep the Lakers. I called that early, and they almost didn't do it, but they pulled it out for me in Game 4.
And how did that turn out for you? I think LA hates you right now.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure we have no listenership from LA right now.
6. Oh no, I'm sure.
But
comment down below.
I gotta stick with the Nuggets, man.
The Bungalow Chat shows in California.
Yeah.
I know they're more San Francisco, but I think we have some.
Well, I'm gonna
Vegas.
I think I'm gonna become a Nuggets fan. I think that's what's happening in this playoffs. Is I'm becoming a fan of the Nuggets and the way they play basketball.
I mean, I know Vegas has been to every finals or conference final since they've been a team.
Yeah.
That's exaggeration. So it's hard to cheer for someone like that. But they haven't won a championship. Florida hasn't won a championship since '96.
Well, and there's something brewing in Vegas where Vegas is bringing in all these professional teams. I mean, since they've been there, the Knights have been there. You have a WNBA team. Looming A's going to Vegas. I mean, I think Vegas, and with the betting there and just the whole scene, like that's going to become a really cool sports town in the coming decade.
It's obviously with sports betting, which we'll get into that in just a little bit. I think it's obviously a city that will attract players for their own reasons or another.
Well,
I mean,
mostly
in the NBA. Well, yeah, that's what mostly in the NBA you're seeing: New York, LA, Miami. It goes league per league because the Cowboys have no problem attracting free agency, but the Mavericks do. Free agents, Mavericks do. I think Vegas is a good one. I guess it just depends on if nightlife is important to you, but Vegas is definitely turning into a big sports market. I have the Panthers in 6. You have Vegas in 7. Moving on to the NFL. Jump into some news there. Ezekiel Elliott, you saw some videos of him working out.
Mm-hmm.
He still doesn't have an NFL team to play for. What are some possible landing spots you're seeing? I know really none.
You know, there were rumors about the Eagles. They haven't completely shot that down, but
since then they've traded for DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I don't know that that's a landing spot.
But Zeke's not a full-time back anymore, is he?
I don't think so.
I mean, the Cowboys
I think it's
stopped
just
using him.
trying to find the right fit for Zeke.
Maybe third down.
To mention the Cowboys, I think you probably see him come back. I don't see him being in any training camps. I think that he's probably a early season acquisition. They bring on maybe week 2, 3, 4, something. You know, like once they start to solidify, you know, they want to leave that open spot to see what they have through minicamp and be able to kind of solidify a roster. And then a couple, weeks in, I see, there's going to be injuries. There's going to be moves you see once you get on the field and start playing meaningful football that I could see them very well picking up Zeke in the early weeks of the season. Just as that power back, because neither of your two backs currently that we suspect with Vaughn and Pollard are physical,
especially Vaughn.
So they're both very similar play styles, which I think is okay. Your offense doesn't have to change if either one's in or out, and we really don't know what we're going to see from Pollard either.
Yeah. Coming
Coming off of a season-ending injury last year, we don't know how he's going to bounce back, and I think that could be what determines if they try to go after and pick up Zeke. I mean, I would think from what I'm seeing, Zeke's the best option you have for the most part in a running back in free agency right now. And he's just sitting there. I mean, I could see. What did you said earlier? We were talking about it before the show.
Just kind of joking around,
but about the numbers of what Zeke's making. I mean, his cap hit and
the Cowboys. I think his cap hit was somewhere around $12 million. They cut him, and he still has about $7 million, I believe. I know there was a $5 million difference. Basically, they were saving.
So if you could bring him in somewhere, in between that, you could cut that in half, $2.5 to $3 million. Yeah. It's still a savings in the end for you. But I very much could see him being another guy to come in this, and more in these passing situations where you need more pass blocking. When you want to run a 2 running back set and you need somebody to stay in the backfield to block, I think that's where Zeke's at in his career.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's that guy that you can just hand the ball to and he's going to get you the 2 to 3 yards. That hasn't always been the case the past season or two for him, pretty much since he got his new contract. So I could see him coming in as a supplemental back, but I wouldn't expect him to have any meaningful playing time, which I think is the exact reason you're not seeing him being picked up by any other teams. I mean, the way the league's kind of transitioning, they're transitioning to smaller backs that can get out of the backfield and catch the ball.
I wouldn't be surprised if I could just see San Francisco bringing him in. Just all the different weapons they have. They have basically anything you can ask for except a quarterback. I mean, they have a lot of quarterbacks. Just they can't decide which one they want to use. They can't keep them healthy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Behind Christian McCaffrey, because obviously, I mean, McCaffrey did great last year, but there's still that injury concern. Not that Zeke's the full-time back to come in and to cover that, but it's something. You have Debo. It's if you can afford it, which is just a couple of $1 million, I assume if $2-3 million. Maybe that's why he hadn't found a landing spot yet. Maybe his agent's floating a number out there that nobody's interested in.
Yeah.
But I think Zeke can absolutely be I call it your 1.5 back. Not exactly your backup running back, but you have a 2 running back and maybe a 75-25 split. Because we saw that Zeke can be effective. He'll average 4 or 5 yards a game, if he's not running it 20 times a game. I think there's still some left in the tank, especially if he's in shape and he's not injured. He can be a good power back or a pass blocker for you.
Yeah.
Unless you line him up at center like the Cowboys did last year. Another high-profile free agent, now free agent. We all thought he was going to be traded. DeAndre Hopkins, released by the Cardinals. Where do you think he might be the most high-profile player out
Overall,
there?
yeah.
Free
And this was a late drop too. So
injury concern, obviously.
This past week, it was rumored that he met with the Houston Texans, where he actually started his career. I think that's actually a good landing spot for him.
Give them a little more. Yeah, I mean, they
Browns and
had a big
Patriots
draft.
were both possibly interested in him. But I think that DeAndre would much rather go back to Houston.
Yeah.
I think leaving Houston was hard for him when he was traded, and I think that I think Houston's just a good fit for him too. And now with a new coaching regime there and a young team, a young quarterback, I think he would actually be a good spark for that team and for the city of Houston.
The Philadelphia Eagles obviously Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be landing spots because he obviously is interested in winning a championship. He hasn't won one or even been close to one yet. And he did come out with a list, I think 10 quarterbacks that he would love to play with. And of course, two teams just go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league right now,
And why
was
wouldn't
on his
you?
list, and Jalen Hurts was on the list too. So obviously, I mean, I don't know that there's been strong rumors that they're even going to meet right now, but he's put that out there. They're successful teams. I could see them bringing them in, so they're probably on most lists his top landing spots: Kansas City and Philadelphia.
Well, and it's rumored that he's also going to want a contract like Odell just signed as well.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be cheap. As we know, OBJ just got a $15 million deal.
I think it's possible that he could get that, although nobody wanted to give anything above a third-round pick for it. But OBJ, he is more removed from his injury than DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
But Hopkins wasn't near as serious. I guess you have his issue with PEDs and being suspended. That's a possibility because I think it would be a year now if he tests positive again. But this is one of those situations where it's a low risk, high reward.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to go somewhere and be the number one receiver unless he goes to Houston. He probably would be, but most situations he goes to Kansas City, he goes to Philadelphia, he's definitely not going to be the number one receiver.
No.
Which I think is good for him.
I think the biggest factor is going to be who will bring him in, is who can fit him into their budget. Wanting so much. Of course, he's a guy you're going to get the production out of. You'll get it. It's just, can you make the numbers?
It might
work?
be a more incentivized program.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we touched every other major league. Well, let's jump into baseball as well. Are there any teams, before we get into really what we're going to talk about baseball, are there any teams that stick out to you right now?
I mean, I think everyone's starting to really notice the Texas Rangers.
Yeah,
Our
I think
hometown Rangers.
we're far enough into the season where it's not just like, okay, it's a fluke. I
mean, they're winning series after series.
They're not putting long win streaks together. I think the biggest win streak they've had a 5-game win streak.
I think as long as you just continue to win out series. I mean, if you can, win 2 to 3 games out of each series and move on, I think that's how you do it. You just keep chipping away. I mean, this is a team that I forget even how many games I said they could win. I mean, this is a team I was underwhelmed with coming in this year. I knew they would be better than they have been just because they've been so atrocious. But man, they've turned it on. They're really proving me wrong and a lot of people wrong that they're
winning,
for real.
They're winning games, scoring a lot of runs, and then last night they showed they can do it the other way, winning 2-0.
Yeah.
Really, their only Achilles heel is their bullpen, which has turned it around the last week.
Yeah.
Which I know it's not going to last long, but that's a good issue to have
when you have
before the
offense
trade
like
deadline, because it's easy to get bullpen pieces.
Especially,
you're not giving away so much.
Yeah.
Because they have a great starting rotation.
Yeah.
Great bats. They're They even have more help coming in sense. So, Evan Carter could possibly be like a because he's doing great. He could be a September call up just to get a little more help there. Josh Young looks like rookie of the year. Simeon looks like he could be an MVP candidate. Again, they lead the league in scoring. They lead the league in run differential. Second place by their record. Obviously Tampa Bay's got 40 and 18.
Yeah.
But Texas is only a few games behind them. And they're in a very competitive division, which we didn't think that was going to be the case.
Yeah.
Now, outside of Oakland, which we'll talk about them in a second. But the other 4 teams in the division, all over 500.
Yeah.
If you look at other divisions, the Angels have 30 wins right now. They're in 4th place.
Yeah.
They would be in first place in the NL Central.
Yeah.
They would be first place or they'd be one game back or half a game back in the AL Central. So as competitive as the AL East is, because every team in the AL East is above 500.
Yeah.
The AL West is right there minus the A's.
Yeah, I mean, you can even see a tight race in the NL West as well. The Diamondbacks and Dodgers just keep going back and forth. They're currently tied for first place in that division.
And the Padres are still disappointing. Speaking of the Oakland A's, it's, obviously we're talking about them moving to Vegas. That's also going to be a future show topic on Tony's new show that you can go check out now that premiered last night, Biz Sports, or Sports Biz. I was reading the wrong thing. Sports Biz, every Friday night. I know he's going to talk about that in the future. But what has been a story this year for the A's has been their attendance numbers. What did you say they were averaging before the show? We're doing show prep.
They're averaging 9,000 fans a game this season.
Which, I mean, multiple times they have been their own minor league team, their AAA affiliate, has had more fans than their major league team.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier too, the Portland Pickles, which is in a collegiate wood bat league. I think it's a summer league, I'm not sure. They posted on social media breaking news. They surpassed the A's in attendance this year.
Yeah.
The Portland Pickles. That's not even a college name that I see. University of Portland College. I don't know. It's just the Portland Pickles.
Yeah.
A collegiate team. Not even a good collegiate team. We're not talking about Texas A&M, LSU, Alabama, which you could look at those numbers. I'm sure they're way past there. We're talking about some unknown team that their name of the Pickles.
Yeah.
Passing the A's in attendance.
Yeah, it's sad. It really is. And we actually saw this. I guess it was a tweet. Yeah, it was a tweet from the Houston Astros, who they just recently played the A's. And it's from their Astros team account. Says 10 runs in front of tens of fans. If that's not demoralizing to an organization. But then Chris Rose, mentioned that he. Sorry, I want to make sure I get this quote right.
Yeah, it was basically
Chris Rose said, "Not a fan of this. It's via the team run account. Have a little class for a fan base that's hurting." And they absolutely have to be hurting with the product that's being put on the field. I mean, I don't know if it's so much a jab at fans that are hurting, is that fans are not going to put up with a team not spending money
to
put a product on the field to compete.
If I was a fan of the team, I would like this post. I'd retweet. It would hurt, you're right, but it's more of, I'm not mad at somebody posting about that. I'm mad at the team for doing what they're doing, which I think is completely intentional.
Yeah.
Because of their stadium issue. It's one thing, I know they play
this is kind of a jab
Moneyball
at Oakland.
Yeah, they play Moneyball, but this is just a whole nother level. Because in previous years, you could see they would occasionally go out and win the division, compete for a playoff spot. But this is just terrible. They're going to lose 100 plus games this year, easily. Man, I don't even know what the record has to be. I think they could go 500 the rest of the year and still lose 100 games.
Yeah, I mean, and there's other, uh, they're the lowest payroll in baseball, the worst record in baseball, and the worst run differential. I mean, they absolutely they have the trifecta.
It's just I don't know where they are on pace and record wise of being the worst team in MLB history. I know Baltimore a few years ago was close to that. I think they won 50 something games or 60 games. Because usually they say, hey, every team's gonna win 50 games, every team's gonna lose 50 games. It's the 62 games in between.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if this team's gonna win 50 games.
Yeah, I don't
What are
know.
they at 11 or 12 wins, a
and
third of the way through the season?
back to the seating, only averaging 9,000 ticket sales. I mean, they could go play and not sell out most minor league ballparks.
I know nowadays because people are asking how are they making money. They're not really, but
Well, a lot of
selling
that's-
seats aren't really
No.
where you get your money nowadays. It's TV deals,
Yeah,
which is kind of up in the air too with the Bally Sports thing.
Yeah.
Go watch episode number 1 of Sports Biz to hear more about that. But there's an issue or a deal with the A's moving to Vegas with Bally Sports, as you were mentioning that before the show.
it's actually Bally's the corporation,
As a corporation,
the casino.
they're still related. It's
tied-
still
okay,
Bally
so
Sports.
then that is-
they're
okay.
related. I don't know that they're.
So that's there's some incentivization there that Bally Sports or Bally's Corporation with another investor would essentially purchase the land and give a nominal amount of money to help build a stadium in Vegas. I think that's the deals that they're working on now. Like you said, I mean, that's where the revenue is going to come in for them. I think this is kind of a tank situation you're seeing just to prove to Major League Baseball, which you'll see, this summer they could vote at the June meetings, I guess this month actually, in about 2 weeks. They could go ahead and do a preliminary vote on if the Major League Baseball would allow the Oakland A's to move to Vegas. They would need 22 votes of the remaining 29 teams in the league to agree to this. I don't see why the MLB wouldn't pass that to move them out of Oakland. I mean,
Unless they want to make an example of how Oakland is doing this,
it
because
took-
it's so blatantly obvious.
The problem
but
is,
they're not
though,
breaking any rules.
the city of Oakland kind of did this to themselves to
Yeah.
get in this position, and then last minute they're, oh yeah, we'll get the funds, we'll do this, we'll do that. Like, it's gone so long where you didn't have a city that was
It definitely
really
helps
backing.
Major League Baseball to have a team in Vegas compared to Oakland.
Yeah,
Money talks. I can't imagine them not voting this in just as under principle, because time and time again, when you're talking about corporations and money, principle goes out the window. But if they did, it would be surprising. But you can say this is not how you force your way out of a city, even though for the most part, Oakland was holding them hostage.
yeah.
And unfortunately, A's fans are taking the brunt of it.
Well, and like we talked about before in show prep too, the A's are on their last year of a lease, the Coliseum. I mean, there's rumor maybe that they could go ahead and make the move if they can get it passed to Vegas and maybe play in the minor league stadium there in Vegas, or there's some other things on the table that they could possibly do, or just have to re-up a lease in Oakland. But at best case, they're looking at the 2027 season to be in Oakland playing in a new stadium.
They could move to a minor league stadium and still have the potential to up their attendance.
Yeah. Yeah, the minor league stadium in Vegas is a 10,000 seat stadium. So they would have no problem being able to hit those numbers, I think. I mean, here's the problem is what they're putting on the field, that product, will they have a fan base to follow them, or will they even be able to bring in a new fan base if they don't start making some moves and spending a little more money
I think you'll
on
see
payroll.
that once it's approved that they're going to Vegas. I think you'll see a reversal. I don't know if they're going to spend a lot more money, but I think you'll see more. Let's say trying, because I mean, it looks like they're not trying, but I think you'll see more
No, I think
effort
they
to
just
make a
don't
better
have
team.
the talent. They're just not putting the talent on the field
Yeah,
with the way that they're wanting to spend and budget their money.
yeah. I think. I mean, we've seen it with the Golden Knights, with the Raiders, that the A's, or I mean, Las Vegas can put fans in the seats and get momentum around their teams. It gets the support for their teams, and moving to Vegas. And if you're speaking of Vegas, if you're a sports bettor, gambler, stop betting with your gut. Use Betalytics. The Betalytics dashboard allows you to quickly identify the top graded best bets and hottest trends. Betalytics uses AI machines to learn algorithms and create accurate game simulations, player prop projections, betting line evaluations, and bet recommendations. Use promo code PEAK1, spelt out ONE, not the number, PEAK1 for 25% off when you sign up with Betalytics today. Go to betalytics.com to start betting smarter.
Yeah, I mean, we should be using Betalytics instead of just going out on a whim and what our gut tells us.
We live in Texas. We can't gamble.
We need
just
to.
like we haven't.
And
we never
take
drink
and you
till
have
we
to
never
take
had a drink till we
advantage.
turned 21.
And you also
We
have
don't
to take
gamble.
advantage of that deal too. With 25% off.
25% off your account signing up. Use PEAK1 as your promo code. And even if you're living in Texas and you can't take advantage of that, there are ways around it that we can't promote, but that's just how you want to do it. But today, talking about all this, I know you're getting that up. We're going to continue our series of MLB uniforms. You want to get into that?
Yeah. The thread this week is brought to you by Apogee Graphics, bringing your vision to new heights. Visit apogeegraphics.com. Man, let's jump right into. We're in the top 12 now.
Just a few more weeks left of this. So if you hate this, you just hang
bear
in
with us a couple more weeks.
We're getting into the better uniforms now. So I obviously picked a photo.
That's it right there,
It's
man.
always
That's
Ken Griffey Jr.'s
always.
uniform. That's how we picture the Mariners uniforms.
I think I still picture the Mariners like this.
Yeah, I like this alternate that they still wear. I mean, it's kind of like a secondary uniform, not quite an alternate.
Yeah.
But I've always loved that green color, although I don't
have
like
too.
the Mariners much. But again, different color hat, different color jersey.
Yeah, and that's when they
With the white
would
pants.
I can remember that as a kid, them wearing that uniform with the navy hat, and it had that teal color bill on it. I can always remember that. I like that look.
You want the original Cubbies uniforms?
Yeah, original
classic.
Cubbies, classic pinstripes. I've talked about it a lot. I have a lot of pinstripes on my list.
And the Yankees
The Cubs
are known for
had-
pinstripe, but the
yeah.
Cubs have been there just as long,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
not long. I think they've been there longer than the Yankees.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Cubs, that's just a clean look. I don't think there's anything else they could change. I mean, you see some franchises, you're like, you need to up your game. You need to, like with us with the Dallas Cowboys, so even as iconic as they are, I still think, man, let's do something different. I'm kind of tired of that. It's hard to get tired of this look with the Cubs. I mean, it looks really nice. I like this look better than I do their solid grays, and
Those are classic too.
And I like this look better than even just the white pants, blue top, or gray pants, blue top they do. This is one of the better pinstripes sets in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, very classic look. It's hard to, I mean, whether you hate like the Cubs, it's like I said, this uniform, this may be the oldest style uniform.
Yeah.
And
it still works. Still works today.
Especially with the logo, like we've mentioned, baseball has some unique logo styles that you really don't think much about. Like, that's interesting until you dig into it.
Yeah.
But just the big C, Cubs and Chicago, I think.
And even the hat, they don't change the hat. In recent years, they've done some different things with the Cub inside the C. But they typically just stay with the same blue with the
blue and red
C.
logo.
Yeah,
and pinstripes.
Yeah.
That's number 12, jumping to number 11. Pick Dodgers classic LA Dodgers uniforms. Classic all the way back from their Brooklyn days. I know we talked about it too when you picked your Dodgers uniforms. And San Francisco as well, because San Francisco, LA, moving from the New York area around the same time, if not the same year. That San Francisco just changed their hats to SF. Everything else pretty much stayed the same. Dodgers, same way. They went from Brooklyn.
B on the
I think
hat.
it was BY and L. Maybe not always, but I know I've seen BY and L kind of mixed together, like NY on there. And they just put LA up there. But for the most part, stays the same. You have the red number, the blue logo. It's, the more you look at it, the more you go into it. It's like, it's not just your regular look.
Yeah, I think you have to look at the details, because when you just look at it, it's kind of a bland, boring look.
But the details
some of those
that they've had
details
that
and the
red number
history.
for I don't know the whole time, but
Yeah, just
you
the
see
history,
Brooklyn Dodgers uniforms.
the history behind that.
Yeah, the blue logo kind of tilted too, not just straight across. It's tilted at an angle a little bit. And then the red.
Well,
number.
speaking of the red on there, I mean, look, I went straight red on the Braves. Probably one of the best. I don't know what the color tone that they use in this red, but it's one of the most vibrant red jerseys.
Like blood red type.
Yeah, it's just a really
not
vibrant,
quite dark, but it's just.
And again, like how we talked about with many of the teams, this red and navy look really
like
goes
Boston,
well together.
Red
Boston's,
Sox,
And I like when they go with these alternates, like you picked with Seattle. The Braves. This is maybe one of my favorite alternates of any of the teams.
It's one of those alternates I've talked about before that it's very simple. They're just swapping colors out. That's exactly what their white jersey looks like. That's exactly what their blue jerseys look like.
Here's a spoiler. That's the last vibrant alternate jersey you're going to see on my list. This is it.
Yeah, that's true, because we're going to get in some more classics that you have to keep up there.
Yeah.
And then now we are getting into our top 10. Speaking of classics, I couldn't have them that high up there. I couldn't have that as a top 5, just because it's a classic. But
with the
it's
Yankees,
still the
there's
Yankees.
nothing overwhelming about the design. It's just it's a classic, kind of how the pick I had with the Cubs.
And I'm sure the Cubs are the same. They don't have names
honestly,
on the back.
There's nothing I see from New York that I'm like, they need to change. Like, you just have to stick with that look.
I've never
that look
thought.
goes
I've never,
through.
I mean,
No,
they don't have
ever,
they
never.
don't have a lot of color schemes.
No.
It's that they have like black they wear, but it's that dark blue, nearly black.
I mean, are they a team? I mean, you talk about all the new City Connects all these teams come out with. I mean, basically, that's New York. That's what you think of as New York when you talk about like a City Connect. Their regular uniform is their City Connect.
And I'm going to look it up too, because obviously they have black jerseys, but
I think they usually do they wear those in games, or that's more of a spring training. Because typically they're only.
I've seen them black with the gray pants.
Okay.
They'll kind of do that. I want to see if I can find on.
I like they have too. The solid gray uniform, which of the gray uniforms, it's not bad. But again, they don't have vibrant colors. They don't do anything crazy with their set. But this, I didn't have the Yankees ranked as high. I mean, they definitely are a contender for that just because of the classic look. But I think that's a good pick.
And their logo, is the Yankees with the baseball and the top hat, red, white, and blue, which is interesting because that's not really their colors. They don't have the red. But yeah, I couldn't find the name of what they call this blue, but they have that blue. That's obviously their logo. Their hat's just really dark blue.
Yeah,
not quite
even,
navy. Maybe
it's even
darker.
deeper than a navy.
Yeah,
color.
I think there's
Almost
a specific
black.
question for that. Maybe it's Yankee blue. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, pinstripes, classic, very simple, no names. I think it was controversial when they finally put numbers on the uniforms.
Yeah.
But very, very classic look.
I picked the Astros. I like this, this sunset look. The thing I don't like about this is you see on the pants that big number that they have on it.
Yeah.
It's hard to see in this picture more than others, but
it's like trying to overdo it with extra.
I think at the
little
time
things
when
on
they
there.
wore these in the 80s, that this was a futuristic thing, Houston, and like they were going for this futuristic look. which now you look at it and it's very classic look.
I mean, it comes
Really,
back. I mean,
of the
my
Astros. I mean,
my
obviously,
son's baseball team, t-ball team, had jerseys like this. It was just
this has
black and
become
blue
very,
and white.
very popular.
exactly what it is.
With the striped coloring like this, the gradient. I mean, this was my pick. This is absolutely my favorite Astros jersey. They've come back out with them in recent years to where it's like a classic look, throwback. But I like these. I would like to see them paired. Maybe change it up with the pants. But as far as just the straight jersey, and this jersey goes well with even their new hats. It can go with old hats. You can kind of mix the old and the new with this uniform set.
Next week we will be off. We have conflicting schedules, but we'll be back the next week. Don't worry about that. Make sure to just like and subscribe. Remember the 100 subscriber challenge, and go to our YouTube page or however you listen to podcasts and check out some more of our shows. You see back there right now, we have the Dynasty DNA Fantasy Football podcast going on right now. Go check out those guys. Anything fantasy. I know they, a Dynasty Fantasy Football, something I've always wanted to do, where you keep the same teams and you basically just do a rookie draft, or even you just keep a certain amount of keepers. Because I think that's fun. You could trade draft picks, do all kinds of stuff. But they talk about regular fantasy football as well. Make sure to follow us on all our social media platforms at Peak One Sports, at Morning Leadoff. And until next time, I'm Ashton.
And I'm Tony.
See you guys.